Our headlines at this hour. President Park wraps up her two-day summit diplomacy in Washington, garnering international commitments to pressure North Korea to give up its nuclear ambitions. She's set to leave for Mexico City, the second leg of her North America tour. The fourth and final nuclear security summit comes to a close with a joint communique. The consensus among the 50-plus world leaders: the international community had made significant, meaningful progress, but their work to prevent nuclear proliferation and terror attacks is by no means finished. And Korea's political parties hit the campaign trail on the first of the 2 weekends remaining before the April 13th parliamentary election. The conservative ruling party is out in Seoul and the surrounding areas. The liberal opposition parties are in their traditional stronghold in the nation's southwest. Our special edition of ARIRANG News begins right now. It is 9 p.m. in Mexico City, 11 in Washington, and 12 noon on a Saturday here in Seoul. Hello and welcome to our viewers all across the globe. You're watching our special edition of ARIRANG News. Let's kick things off this beautiful Saturday afternoon in Washington, where the Nuclear Security Summit 2016 has come to a close. The summit, the fourth and final in the series, concluded with the 52 participating countries pledging to continue their efforts to bolster nuclear security in the face of global threats. Now, South Korea hosted the 2012 summit, and it has vowed to take on an even greater role in continuing that legacy in the future. Our Song Ji-sun is traveling with the presidential press corps, and she joins us from Washington. Now, Ji-sun, what kind of a footprint does the summit leave behind on the future of nuclear security?
Good afternoon, Kwon-young. The Nuclear Security Summit 2016 came to a close with the 52 state representatives adopting a joint communique to continue their efforts to bolster nuclear security. The plenary session of this year's Nuclear Security Summit was aimed at achieving tangible improvements in nuclear security behavior and strengthening the global nuclear security architecture. The summit communique and action plan will be endorsed by 5 key international organizations and institutions, including the IAEA, the UN, Interpol, the Global Partnership, and the Global Initiative to Combat Nuclear Terrorism. In a speech she gave during a working lunch, President Park stressed the role of international agencies in nuclear security and said the cooperative network established through the Nuclear Security Summit must go on. In line with that, Seoul will chair the IAEA International Conference on Nuclear Security in December. President Park also pledged Seoul will assist the IAEA with efforts to counter cyber attacks. Wrapping up her time at the Nuclear Security Summit, President Park will fly to Mexico on Saturday for summit talks with her Mexican counterpart, Enrique Peña Nieto, where she'll seek greater economic cooperation between the two countries and support for implementing sanctions on North Korea. Back to you in Seoul.
Thanks, Ji-sun. That was our Song Ji-sun reporting from Washington. Now, during her stay there in the U.S. Capitol, President Park had her eyes set on one goal: garnering international support to keep the heat on North Korea, both at the Nuclear Security Summit as well as during a series of bilateral and trilateral summit talks. Our Hwang Ji-hye has a wrap-up.
As the two-day summit on nuclear security in Washington wraps up, South Korean President Park is being credited with strengthening international efforts to denuclearize North Korea. President Park's meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping on Thursday drew the most attention in that Beijing, the North's strongest ally, pledged to fully implement the latest UN resolution imposing the toughest ever sanctions on Pyongyang. The resolution that was approved unanimously by the 15-member Security Council last month aims to condemn North Korea for its fourth nuclear test in January and long-range missile launch in February. Although China voted in favor of the resolution, there had been concerns about its appetite for implementing the sanctions, which become more effective with China's support. China's pledge to implement the UN resolution will boost the efforts of South Korea, the U.S., and Japan to ramp up pressure on North Korea. President Park held marathon bilateral and trilateral talks with U.S. President Barack Obama and Japanese President Shinzo Abe on the sidelines of the Global Nuclear Security Summit. The three countries warned Pyongyang that they could take further steps to counter the North if its nuclear threats continue. 황지혜, 아리랑 뉴스.
Wrapping up the fourth and final Nuclear Security Summit, U.S. President Barack Obama highlighted the achievements made by the international community since the first summit 6 years ago. Now, he also expressed his hope that global efforts will continue beyond his presidency to make the world safe from nuclear threats.
More needs to be done to prevent the proliferation of nuclear and other radioactive materials. The joint communiqué issued by more than 50 world leaders at the fourth and final Nuclear Security Summit declared that global efforts must go on beyond the summit. Major commitments were made throughout the day by key participant countries. President Park pledged South Korea's support toward international cooperation as the host of the upcoming International Atomic Energy Agency Nuclear Security Conference. She also promised to assist the IAEA's measures against cyber terrorism. The United States made its first declaration in a decade of its stockpile of highly enriched uranium, or HEU, and South America was declared completely free of the material in a White House document released on Friday. Germany and Japan also promised to reduce their stockpiles. These achievements were lauded by U.S. President Barack Obama, but he also brought to light the challenges that remain.
I'm the first to acknowledge the great deal of work that remains, from negotiating further reductions with Russia to dealing with North Korea's nuclear program.
North Korea's nuclear program, though not an official agenda, was a hot topic throughout the summit and at talks on the sidelines. Along with growing fears of nuclear terrorist attacks, world leaders emphasized the need for continual joint efforts to resolve such threats to nuclear security through an international system of treaties, institutions, norms and practices. The first Nuclear Security Summit in 2010 was the brainchild of U.S. President Obama, with the first meeting taking place in Washington, followed by the Seoul Summit in 2012 and in 2014 in The Hague. And now, 6 years later, the curtain has come down on the final summit in the city where it all began. Mark Broom, ARIRANG News.
Well, back here in this country, there's no rest for Korea's political parties on the weekend. They can't afford to waste a single minute with the upcoming general election, now just 11 days away. Candidates of the ruling Saenuri Party hit the streets in the Seoul metropolitan area this morning, while opposition candidates went south to woo voters in the Jeollado province. Our Han Da-eun gives us the highlights from the campaign so far.
Ruling Saenuri Party Chairman Kim Moo-sung clasps the hands of merchants at Dongdaemun Market in downtown Seoul. Then he's off to Incheon to show his support for the party's candidate there, An Dae-hee.
Make a change, Dae-hee. Reform politics.
Kim Jong-in, the chairman of the main opposition Minju Party's emergency committee, joins a crowd heading to work early in the morning. Kim is well over 70, but his age has not slowed him down. He moves to a different district almost every hour to try to win over voters in as many areas as possible.
I'm okay. I'm not tired yet.
The co-chairman of the minor opposition People's Party, An Chol-soo, makes the rounds of local supermarkets to reach out to the people. Since the first day of official campaigning, An has visited 13 districts in Seoul to meet with citizens and hear about their difficulties.
I fully understand people's hardships. My voice is growing hoarse now.
The leaders of all three parties are campaigning around the clock, and they look set to continue throughout the weekend. Saenuri Party candidates have said they will stay focused on the Seoul metropolitan area, while the Minju and People's Party have set out to woo people in the liberal stronghold of Jeollado province. Han Da-eun, ARIRANG News.
Now, for the third straight day, North Korea has been jamming GPS signals on the inter-Korean border. Officials in Seoul said that Pyongyang had made the latest attempt at around 9:30 a.m. local time, which is about 2.5 hours ago. Now, there's no major malfunctions detected with flights or ships, nor have there been any civilian casualties. That's according to officials here in Seoul. Now, Pyongyang released the largest amount of disrupted signals Thursday. The signals originated in the city of Haeju and the counties of Yeonan, Pyeonggang, and Kumgang. The European Union has slapped more sanctions on North Korea, blacklisting its state-run insurance company and its branches in Germany and the United Kingdom. In comments made through its official journal, the EU said the Korean National Insurance Corporation, which is believed to be linked to Pyongyang's Workers' Party, is funneling foreign exchange revenue into party funds used for the country's nuclear and missile programs. Now, the move comes on the heels of the EU's extension of previous sanctions that came into effect Friday that included additional export and import bans on goods that are linked to the North Korean military. The U.S. Special Envoy for North Korean Human Rights will be in South Korea for a 5-day visit starting tomorrow. The U.S. State Department said Friday that Ambassador Robert King will be in Seoul from Sunday through Wednesday to meet with senior South Korean officials for discussions on a broad range of issues related to North Korea and to continue the close coordination between Seoul and Washington on North Korea's human rights. Now, shifting our focus, a new case of Ebola has been confirmed in Liberia this time, 3 months after the country had been declared free of that virus. The World Health Organization says a 30-year-old woman died of Ebola Thursday night as she was being brought to the hospital in the capital of Monrovia. An investigation is underway to track the source of the transmission. More than 11,000 people have died over the past 2 years due to the epidemic, most of them in Guinea, Liberia, and Sierra Leone. Well, April is a Science Month here in Korea, and adding to that excitement, this year marks the 50th anniversary of the Korea Institute of Science and Technology. Well, to celebrate this landmark, a series of on- and offline events will be held nationwide to offer all of you, children and adults, high-tech experiences. Our Oh Jung-hee reports.
Korea celebrates Science Month every April, with this year holding special significance. 2016 marks the 50th anniversary of the founding of the Korea Institute of Science and Technology. The Ministry of Science, ICT, and Future Planning announced plans to hold various events and festivals all across the country for the public to experience just how fun science can be. Science Month will kick off 2-day cultural fairs simultaneously at science museums in 5 major cities, including Seoul, Gwacheon, Gwangju, Daegu, and Busan. Families will be able to enjoy magic shows and book concerts, as well as experience virtual reality, robot technology, and drones. The third FameLab competition, created in Britain in 2005 and now held in over 20 countries worldwide, will also take place at the end of April. Participants from the fields of physics, chemistry, earth science, and biology will compete in an innovative format, giving short scientific talks to communicate their work within a time limit of 3 minutes. In line with these events, the Korean government plans to reach out to the public online, mainly through viral campaigns via social network services, to promote an atmosphere of celebration about science across the country. Free science-themed emoticons will also be available for download to KakaoTalk, Korea's most widely used mobile messenger. Oh Jung-hee, ARIRANG News.
And that is our special edition of ARIRANG News this Saturday afternoon. I'm Moon Ga-young. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, but we will be back with the latest updates in about 6 hours' time at 6 p.m. Korea time. So see you then.